Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Shubham, and today I'm gonna talk about a very popular kind of fever, especially in India. Basically, that is the dengue fever, right? So you must have heard about the cases of the dengue fever nowadays. They are on spike. So if you talk about the dengue fever, okay, let's talk about first of all a bit of it, the bit about the structure basically, right? So the dengue fever basically, this is the virus first of all. So dengue fever, if I'm talking about, first of all I should say that this fever is happening because of the virus. So this is the virus. Actually we are having the four kind of viruses. Okay, so we are having actually four kind of viruses, guys. Okay, four kind of viruses are there. Okay, rather I should write that there are four kind of viruses, not all the four viruses are there, but four kinds of viruses are there. Okay, what are these four types of viruses? Four kinds of viruses are there. Okay, what do I mean by that? Four kinds of viruses. For example, it can be between the den1, okay, denv1 to denv4. Okay, denv1 to denv4. So dengue virus 1, dengue virus 2, dengue virus 3, dengue virus 4. Okay, so in short, denv1 to denv4. Okay, basically this is the dengue virus, guys. Okay, basically this is the dengue virus, and because it is causing the fever, okay, that's why we are calling that as dengue fever. Okay, it is causing the break-bone fever. We'll talk about that. Okay, it is also causing the hemorrhage, because that's why we are calling that a hemorrhagic fever also, dengue hemorrhagic fever. Don't worry, we'll talk about that. But here it is having the four types of viruses, den1 to den4 category. Okay, any of that can infect the person basically, and that can cause the fever. Okay, and different kind of symptoms might persist, which we will talk about further. This dengue virus is actually a bit about the structure also. Okay, structure, I mean that this is your enveloped virus, guys. This is your enveloped positively single strand. Okay, enveloped positive single stranded, okay, single stranded RNA virus, single stranded RNA virus, guys. Okay, it is not the DNA virus, it is the RNA virus. Okay, it is also called as the flavivirus, guys. It is also called as the flavivirus. If I'm calling that as flavivirus, what will be the family, guys? Family will be the Flaviviridae. Okay, we know that viridae, which is ending with the viridae, it is the family. Okay, and this is the flavivirus. Okay, how it is actually transmission and all? What about the transmission and all about this particular virus? Transmission is very easy. The mosquito is involved over here. Which mosquito, guys? It is the Aedes aegypti mosquito. Okay, which mosquito is there? That is the Aedes aegypti mosquito. Okay, actually Aedes aegypti is more famous. Aedes aegypti mosquito. Okay, if you want to remember one more, then you can remember as Aedes albopictus. Okay, but more famous form is the Aedes aegypti. Okay, so that is the thing. Here you can see the Aedes aegypti mosquito basically, and it is responsible for what? Causing the dengue fever or the dengue virus. Okay, so what is happening, how you can identify that? You can look the white strips on the legs also, on the thorax also there are some of the white strips. This is the Aedes aegypti mosquito basically, which is responsible for causing the dengue virus. Okay, how is it causing and all? We'll talk about that. Let's talk about the structure also, guys. As I said, it is a single stranded RNA virus. So you can see inside it there is a genome, which is a single stranded RNA, right? Then it is covered with the nucleocapsid, and then at the end it is having a E and M proteins. Okay, and it is surrounded by what? Viral envelope. Okay, so it's a flavivirus coming from the Flaviviridae family, positive single stranded RNA virus. It is covered with the covered with the viral envelope, and which is having the E and M proteins. Okay, that is about the structure of that. Okay, Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus. As I said, Aedes aegypti is more famous one, right, as far as mosquitoes are concerned, right? Other than that, what you need to remember is that, you know, from where like epidemiology wise, from where you will be seeing these kind of patients who are having the dengue fever. Okay, mainly you need to remember basically tropical and the subtropical areas. Okay, so what are the areas which are involved over here? Mainly the areas over here will be the tropical and subtropical areas. Okay, tropical and subtropical areas. For example, India is kind of a hub for the dengue virus. Okay, so dengue fever, you are seeing like there is a kind of a outbreak for the dengue fever over here. Like most of the patients, most of the hospitals are filled with the dengue fever patients, right? So that is the case over here. Okay, now how about the pathogenesis, guys? What about the pathogenesis? So let's talk about the pathogenesis as well. Okay, once you have talked about the introduction of a brief introduction about the dengue fever, let's talk about the pathogenesis as well. Very simple, guys, nothing, I'm not going into much detail, but the thing is, what thing at least you should remember, you should know what is happening. Very simple. First of all, there is a simple mosquito. Okay, there is a simple mosquito, and let's say this is the simple mosquito, right? He bites on one person who was actually having the dengue fever, who was actually patient with the dengue fever. Okay, so he bite, let's say this person was having the dengue. Okay, this person was having the dengue, I'm just assuming that, right? And this mosquito bites that. Now this mosquito, after biting this patient, this mosquito took this dengue, right, dengue virus, and this dengue virus will actually go into the midgut portion of the Aedes aegypti. Now this mosquito is actually infected now in the GI tract. Okay, in the midgut of this mosquito, there is a dengue virus now. Okay, after 7 to 8 days, okay, after 8 to 8 days, okay, what will happen, that this mosquito, the dengue virus which is present in the midgut of this mosquito, they will be actually coming toward the salivary gland. Now this dengue virus is present in the salivary gland. Now as this mosquito will bite another person who is actually healthy, as this person will be bitten by this particular mosquito who was having the dengue now, okay, now if he will bite the normal person or the healthy person, this person is having tendency to get the dengue virus from that. Okay, so that is the chain, and that's how, okay, the person will be getting this particularly infection of the dengue virus, and after like about 4 to 7 days, the person might show the symptoms now. Okay, okay, that is the incubation period of the dengue virus. Okay, so that is the basic cycle which you need to remember over here. Very easy. Simple mosquito will bite the dengue person. After biting it, okay, the dengue virus will be coming into the midgut of the mosquito. Then after 8 to 10 days, usually after 8 to 10 days, okay, what will happen within 8 to 10 days, that this virus will actually migrate or transmit from the midgut portion to the salivary gland. Now this mosquito, if this mosquito will be biting the normal person, it can transmit the dengue virus in the person, and the person might show the symptoms after about 4 to 5 days or about 4 to 7 days range, right? So that is about the pathogenesis over here, which you need to remember, guys. Okay, very simple pathogenesis. Okay, now moving further, now that is about the pathogenesis part. Moving further now, and one more thing, like if I will just brief it over here, like about the pathogenesis over here. Okay, so basically it will be transmitting from one person to another through this particular Aedes aegypti, and this virus, once it will be coming into the person, okay, in some severe stages it can actually infect the bone marrow, guys. Virus will be replicating further, okay, and finally if it reaches the bone marrow, then it can actually destroys the bone marrow. Okay, it can actually destroys the bone marrow too, destroys the bone marrow as well. That's why it is called as the breaking bone fever. Okay, it is having a severe bone pain. Next thing over here is that plasma leakage is very common over here. Okay, plasma leakage is common. Okay, plasma leakage is common because there is a increased capillary permeability of capillaries. So due to the increased capillary permeability, there is a plasma leakage. Okay, fine. So due to that, there is a plasma leakage over here. With that, the person might have the low BP and all. Okay, so once this pathogenesis is clear, okay, now let's move further and what can be happening. Okay, as I said that the this person might have the involvement of the bone marrow also. Okay, so hemorrhage and all might happen because of the platelets of action and all further. So dengue hemorrhagic fever is another name for that. So you can call that as, okay, it is having the association with the dengue hemorrhagic fever, or you can say the dengue shock syndrome. Okay, because of the low BP, because of the increased capillary permeability. Okay, now symptoms are usually occurring at what point of time? About 4 to symptoms, if I'm talking about, guys, symptoms are coming in the patient. Okay, symptoms are coming in the patient occur after 4 to 10 days. Okay, so symptoms will be there after about 4 to 10 days. Okay, it depends. That's the range actually. Okay, or you can say 4 to 8 days, right? If the person is actually remains untreated, the mortality rate might be increasing over here. Okay, so that is the case over here. That's why the treatment is very, very important. We can reduce the mortality by our treatment. What is the treatment of? We'll talk about that later on. Okay, so if I'm talking about the dengue fever now, moving on to the presentation part now, guys. Moving on to the presentation part. So if I'm moving on to the presentation part, okay, pathogenesis and all, everything is clear till now. Now, what about the presentation? Presentation means basically, different kind of clinical presentation might be there in different persons. Okay, so variable clinical presentation can be there, guys. Okay, what do I mean by that? Variable clinical features might be present in different persons, right? Okay, some persons might be asymptomatic also. Some persons might have the life-threatening features, right? So this is the range. Mostly, in the children's, basically they are asymptomatic. Mostly children's are asymptomatic. Okay, mostly children's are asymptomatic also. Okay, they are not showing the symptoms. Some of the patients are there who are actually showing the symptoms, and symptoms are so much that it could be the life-threatening also, right? So that is the case. That's why we are seeing mortality also in the dengue fever, right, in some of the severe cases. So basically you can actually divide the infection phase into 3 parts. Okay, so I can say that there are about 3 phases of infections. Okay, there are about 3 phases of infection are there. Okay, 3 phases of infections might be there. Okay, what I'm talking about, the 3 phases of infection, if I will talk about that, then it could be around like first one, if I'm talking about, it could be the febrile phase, guys, where the person will be having the fever. Basically we'll talk about that in detail. Febrile phase. Second phase, it could be the critical phase. Second phase, it could be the critical phase, when the person is moving into the critical phase. Okay, critical phase might be present in some patients or might not be present in some patients, so I'm just going with like plus or minus. Okay, it might be present in some patient, might not be present in some patient. Okay, and then last stage is the recovery phase, where the person might recover. Now, okay, either first of all there is a febrile phase, then person might have the critical phase. Either after the critical phase, either the person may have the mortality, either the person might expire, otherwise the person might recover. Okay, there could be the 2 possibilities. So once we understood this, now let's dive into the each and every phases over here in detail. So if I will begin with the febrile phase, guys, if I begin with the febrile phase, as the name suggests, over here you will be seeing the person might have the fever and all, right? So if I'm talking about the febrile phase over here, then symptoms will be beginning. Okay, what I told you, from 4 to 7 days symptoms, so that is the range actually. Okay, and it might last up till the 7 to 10 days. So these are the symptoms. So symptoms will be actually starting now. Okay, and they will usually begin at around like day 4 and 7. Okay, between day 4 to 7. Fine. Now there could be the fever, as I suggested, like as the name suggests over here. You can see over here that there could be the fever, guys. There could be the fever over there. Okay, as there is a febrile phase, fever over there. Now this fever might have the sudden onset. Suddenly the person might have the high fever, sudden onset. It is the high grade fever, guys. It is having the high grade nature. It is a high grade fever. Okay, in that case I'm saying that more than 38.5 degrees Celsius, that can be the range. Okay, the person might have the headache also. The person might have like generalized features can be there. Headache might be there, myalgias, okay, muscle pains can be there, general weakness can be there, fatigue can be there. Okay, fatigue can be there, general weakness. Okay, general weakness can be there in these patients, right? So these kind of features might be there. Other than that, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, right? Nausea might be there, vomiting might be there. Okay, or diarrhea might be there. These non-specific symptoms might also be there. Abdominal pain, patients are talking about the abdominal pain. These non-specific symptoms might also be there. Okay, very important thing over here, I'm just bolding it, like retroorbital pain is seen in some patients. Retroorbital pain. Okay, So retroorbital means behind the orbit, like I'm talking about the eyes. So behind the eyes, okay, there could be the pain over there. Okay, so retroorbital pain could be there as well in some of the patients because of that severe headache is coming into the orbital region. And then non-specific symptoms, nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, generalized weakness, fever, myalgias, and all those things might persist as such. Okay, so that is about what phase? That is about the febrile phase. Okay, other than that, guys, there could be the lymphadenopathy. There could be the lymph nodes involvement. Lymphadenopathy can be there. Okay, so various kind of features. As I said, that this is the variable clinical presentation. Some patient might show some different symptoms, some patient might show some different features. Okay, then in some patients it has been seen the liver involvement might be there. So hepatomegaly can also be seen in some of the patients. Okay, in some of the patients you might see the maculopapular rash. In some of the patient you might see that there could be the maculopapular rash. Okay, so in few patients, right, there can be the maculopapular rash, and in these kind of cases, like after like 2 to 5 days, the person, like in this range, the person might be having the fever presentation. Okay, some of the patient might have the respiratory symptoms as well. Okay, respiratory symptoms. So guys, it is having the wide range of symptoms. That's why I said variable clinical presentation. Respiratory symptoms in such sense that I am talking about, then basically the person might have the cough, the person might have the cough, the person might have some sore throat can be there, right? The person might have the congestion in the respiratory tract, upper respiratory tract. Okay, so these can be the symptoms for the respiratory symptoms I'm talking about. Okay, further if you ask me, then some of the patients might have in the blood test and all, they might have the leukopenia, guys. They might have the decreased WBCs count. They might have the decreased thrombocytes count. So thrombocytopenia, it is very famous. So even the non-medical person knows that there could be the thrombocytopenia, obviously, and on the basis of the thrombocytopenia, many of the persons make their diagnosis that it is the dengue fever. Okay, so other than that, the liver enzymes might be elevated over there. That's why I told you hepatomegaly can be there. That is also the seen in the blood test. Okay, so transaminitis, guys, what the term we are using over here, that is a transaminitis. Transaminitis means nothing, guys. It's just the liver enzymes are elevating over there. ALT, AST, okay, they might be elevated in the blood circulation, obviously because hepatomegaly, okay, overfunction of these particular liver enzymes. Understood? So like, it's lot of features are there in the febrile phase itself. So here I'm showing you what I'm trying to show you over here, the maculopapular rash. Okay, so here as you can see, guys, these confluent rashes can be there. Okay, as somebody put the hand over there on the chest region, and you can see how it is showing it, right? How this person is having the differentiation with the other skin. Okay, right? So this is the confluent rashes present on the surface of the skin. Okay, and the next picture I'm showing you that how the maculopapular rash might present over there in these kind of patients. Okay, look over here how the maculopapular rash, you can see over here in the picture how the maculopapular rash over there. Okay, for example here some spots you can see over there, right? So how the maculopapular rash is showing over here, right? So that is about the maculopapular rash, which can be seen in the which phase, guys? Febrile phase itself, which can be seen in the febrile phase itself. Now from the febrile phase, guys, now second phase was our critical phase. Now it might present in some patient, it might not be present in other patients, right? So guys, it is plus or minus, as I already told you. So after the febrile phase, we are having the one more phase, next phase, that is the critical phase, guys. So after the febrile phase, we are having the critical phase. So let's talk about the critical phase as well. So critical phase, that says that in some patients you can see, so it's like it occurs in some patients of the dengue fever. Okay, so a small portion of the patients might have the this critical phase. Okay, so like in this kind of persons, okay, what might happen in this kind of persons? What might happen? Secondary infections. Okay, secondary infections might be there in some of the patients. Secondary infections might be there. Okay, for example, other kind of dengue serotype, I told you dengue 1, dengue 1 to dengue 4, fourth kind of virus I told you. Other features, other kind of dengue serotype can involve over here in this particular patient. Okay, like first of all, it could happen that primarily this person was actually infected with this dengue fever. Recovery phase happened after that, but after like 1 or 2 years, this patient again is suffering from the dengue virus or dengue fever, and this time it might be the different subtype of dengue subtype, right? So that I'm talking about. Okay, so That is the thing. Now other kind of medical comorbidities can be there. Okay, so other kind of medical comorbidities can be there. Okay, some other kind of diseases might persist in these kind of persons. Okay, so it could be more lethal as compared to the previous infection. Now this kind of this particular phase, actually it might be present over there in the person from like 1 to 2 days. Thrombocytopenia is also very important feature over here as well. Thrombocytopenia is the very important feature of this dengue fever, right? The dengue fever, thrombocytopenia is very important feature, guys, where the platelets can be very low. But in this case, if the person is suffering through the critical phase, the person will be having the thrombocytopenia very severely. Okay, so severe thrombocytopenic infection might be there. So the platelet count might be less than 50,000 also. So that is the case over here. Okay, so if the thrombocytopenia is there, everybody knows, guys, what could be the symptoms. And also symptoms, you know that. Okay, I don't need to tell you guys that there are the high chances of bleeding and all. Okay, hematostasia, hematmesis, okay, the menorrhagia. So bleed from anywhere the bleed might come out. Okay, so that's because of the bleeding thrombocytopenia is there. We are also calling that as, guys, what? I'm writing it in the bold letters. There is a dengue hemorrhagic fever. Okay, very important term I'm using over here. Dengue hemorrhagic fever. Why the dengue hemorrhagic fever? Obviously, the person is having the low platelets count, low thrombocytes count, thrombocytopenia is there. So that's why I'm using the term over here as dengue hemorrhagic fever, guys. Dengue hemorrhagic fever. No doubt about it. So once we have understood it, like why the dengue hemorrhagic fever, like what kind of presentation in the stools, there could be the bleeding from the nosebleed can be there, menorrhagia can be there. Okay, this kind of presentation, right? Now I told you that due to increased capillary permeability, there could be the vascular leakage. Okay, and due to that vascular leakage, there could be the low BP in such kind of patients. So shock might be there. So for that purpose, I can use the term dengue shock syndrome. Okay, dengue shock syndrome, guys. So here I just used the two basic terms over here. Okay, dengue shock syndrome, and I just used the dengue hemorrhagic fever. Okay, two kinds of terms I've used over here, guys. Do not forget them, right? Very important. So once we have talked about that is about which phase that. Okay, so this is because of what I'm saying it, because of the vascular permeability. Because of the vascular permeability, right? Vascular permeability was increasing, capillary permeability was increasing. That's why due to this leakage, we are actually seeing the low BP in the patient. So that's why vascular leakage will lead to the shock feature over there. Okay, and the next phase, guys, after that, once we have talked of first of all, we have talked about the febrile phase, then we have talked about the critical phase, plus or minus. In some patient might be there, some patient might not be there, and then last phase we are coming to, that is a recovery phase, guys. Okay, that is a recovery phase. Okay, so what about the recovery phase over here? Recovery phase is like, this is the vascular permeability which was actually happening. Now this is actually healing up. So this is the okay, so whatever vascular permeability was there, capillary permeability was increasing over there, now it will be coming back to the normal stage. That is the recovery phase. Okay, so the vitals and all of this kind of patient, they will be stabilizing now. So vitals of this person and all, okay, they will be stabilizing. The person is actually coming back to the normal situation now. So vitals are actually stabilizes in this stage. Okay, now some kind of persons might have some new kind of rashes also. Okay, some new kind of rashes might be there. Pruritic rashes might be there, like they might be having the itching and all, right? Then some kind of person might have the fatigue and all features. Okay, so some fatigue and all these kind of things, obviously that might be persisting. Okay, so once we have talked about this recovery phase also, okay, it might persist, like it depends actually. Okay, from weeks to months it might be there. Okay, it might be persisting from the weeks, from few weeks to few months, depends on patient to patients, how severe their symptoms were before this phase, right? So now once we have talked about these three kind of phases about the presentation, like once we have talked about like febrile phase, then we have talked about the critical phase, then we have talked about the recovery phase. Now I am coming to the diagnostic part over here. So how you will be making the diagnosis of such persons, such patients. So what about the diagnosis, guys? Very important. Okay, for the diagnosis for these patients, okay, nothing special over here. You will be actually checking for one special antibody. What antibody I'm talking about, guys? You will be actually checking for the anti-dengue IgM antibody. This is the acute infection anti-dengue IgM antibody. Okay, usually on day 4 to day 5 you can actually detect that. Usually on day 4 to day 5 of this infection you can actually detect this particular anti-dengue IgM antibody, right? So once you have actually detected, from where you can actually detect it, like from the tissue, from the serum, from the CSF. Okay, from where actually you can get it, from the the detection you will be seeing, actually detection of DNA you will be seeing actually from where, in the serum, it could be in the tissues, okay, it could be in the saliva, it could be in the it could be in the CSF and all. Okay, that could be the presentation, right? Like that, from there you can actually get it. Now what about the features and all? I told you already that thrombocytopenia might be there, liver enzymes might be elevated and all. We have talked about everything about that, right? Here what about the treatment now? What about the treatment? Let's talk about the treatment. Okay, so treatment and management is here actually nothing we can do over here much, because for symptomatic treatment you will be actually doing, okay, symptomatic, or I can say the supportive treatment you will be doing actually. What about the supportive management over here? Like for example, the fever is there in most of the patient, you will be giving the PCM for that, right? Acetaminophen you can give, paracetamol, okay, but don't give the NSAIDs, guys. Don't give the NSAIDs, because further it can actually there can be the feature of like anticoagulation and all, and we don't want that. So don't use the NSAIDs and all. For example, ibuprofen and all we are giving for the pain relief and all, for other kind of things, but don't avoid the NSAIDs over there in these kind of cases especially. Okay, right. So supportive treatment, for example, you can give the paracetamol and something like that, right? PCM and all you can give, supportive management you will be giving over here. For example, here you will be giving for that for the headaches purpose, or for fever and all. For headache, fever, you can give that, right? But do not give actually headache, fever, etc. So do not give that NSAIDs for the pain relief and all, right? What about the prophylaxis part, like prevention? Nowadays, like we are having the what about the prevention? For example, some person want to go to some tropical or subtropical area, he can actually take the vaccine before going to that area. So for that purpose we are having a dengue vaccine. For that purpose we are having a dengue vaccine, right? So he can actually take the dengue vaccination basically, so that he will be actually get protected from that area. Okay, so that is about particularly the treatment part as far as this is concerned, right? Some of the differential diagnosis I would like to give over here. Okay, what about the differential diagnosis, right? Differential diagnosis. Now it could be easily confused with some of the other viruses. For example, it could be easily confused with your chikungunya virus, right? First of all, chikungunya virus, this is also a very common kind of virus which we are seeing in the patients, okay, like in India basically, the chikungunya virus. Okay, what is happening in chikungunya? Like flu-like symptoms might be there in these kind of patients also. Okay, running nose and all these things can be there, but flu-like symptoms might be there. But what is different, right? In that we have talked about the dengue hemorrhagic fever, but here hemorrhage is not there as such. Yeah, joint pain and all that can be there. Okay, joint pains are very severe also in that case, even after the healing of this after having the recovery phase of this from chikungunya virus. Okay, actually the person might have the might be having the joint pain for a very long period of time, right, for about months and all. So that is also there. So joint pain can be there. Some of the rashes can also be there. Okay, for example, maculopapular rash that was seen in the dengue also, but hemorrhage as such will not be seen. In these patients. Okay, hemorrhage as such will not be seen. That's how, that is a differentiating point over there. Okay, that's how some of the Zika virus. Okay, you must have heard about the Zika virus also. That was actually very famous in the Kerala side also. So Zika virus, okay, that can also be having the similar presentation, but that is also not having the hemorrhage particularly. Okay, what about the yellow fever? Yellow fever is also having the differential with that, but again guys, in the yellow fever there could be the hemorrhage, but usually it is actually having the presentation of the jaundice like. Okay, so third could be the yellow fever. Okay, but it is having the presentation like hepatomegaly, but the jaundice kind of presentation could also be found over there. Okay, so that is about the differential diagnosis as far as your dengue fever is concerned. So I have to, I just touched upon the very important aspects of the dengue fever so that you know about it. Okay, so guys, let's apply this knowledge in solving some of the MCQs as well. So here, let's talk about the first MCQ. 35-year-old man presents to the local urgent care clinic, okay, in South America, and he is actually completing a graduate school examination exchange program studying tropical ecosystem and is bitten by the mosquitoes, guys. Now almost every day he reports a 3-day history of high fever, chills, and myalgias are there. This morning he noticed some of the blood in the urine, and while blowing in his nose, okay, while blowing his nose. And on physical examination there is gingival bleeding also, so hemorrhage is there as such. A tropical ecosystem history is there, bitten by the mosquitoes history is there, high fever, chills, and myalgia non-specific symptoms are there. Lab examination shows there is a mild transaminitis, as I told you in the labs data. Thrombocytopenia is there and hematuria is there because of that bleeding and all. What could be the diagnosis and hemorrhage? What could be the diagnosis over here, guys? Yeah, diagnosis is very clear. I can hear that is a dengue fever. Okay, right, very clear, easy. So next question over here is that they are asking you that 53-year-old man present to the urgent care center with severe fever that began during the day along with muscle and joint pain. So myalgias and the arthralgia is there, joint pain. He states that he felt fine the day before but then developed a fever of about 39.4 degrees Celsius. I told you guys, fever might be there, it could be the febrile phase, and had to leave work, after which he developed a headache, okay, headache and the body pains. Okay, now the patient states that he was recently in the South Asia for a business trip. It could be the tropical area, and was otherwise feeling well since returning 2 weeks ago. So he's having the history for the traveling to the tropical or subtropical area. On examination, the patient temperature is about 39.6 degrees Celsius. BP is also 110/84. Now pulse is 94, respiration rate of 14 per minute. That's okay. But on physical examination, patient appears flushed and has a rash that blanches when touched, as it could be the maculopapular rash, guys. On lab workup, the pathogen was identified as enveloped virus with an icosahedral capsid as positive, sensing a standard linear RNA. I hope you got the point. Multiple kinds of hints are given over here. Tropical areas history, traveling history is there, myalgia, joint pains, high temperature, guys, body pains are there, enveloped virus is there, and maculopapular rash is given in the history as well. Icosahedral capsid, like positive signs, it is having the icosahedral shape. I showed you the virus, right? Okay, so look at this shape, guys, look at this shape. Okay, icosahedral capsid, isn't it? So this nucleocapsid is actually having the which shape, guys? Icosahedral shape. Okay, so that is the thing over here. Okay, so that was also given in our particular question basically. Okay, so once we have talked about that, so what is the particular diagnosis we can think of, guys? Obviously you can think of what? Yeah, options are in front of you, guys. Yeah, I can hear it very well, that is the dengue virus. Got it? So multiple kinds of information was given, positive and single strand RNA virus, right? So a 44-year-old woman, she actually presents to the emergency room for high fever, chills, and headache. Headache was there, and the nosebleed. She recently traveled to the Taiwan for 3 days. Again, traveling history to the tropical subtropical areas where she enjoyed both city life and the tropical tourism. She had been bit by the mosquitoes throughout her trip. Now several days after returning to the USA, she developed high fever, joint and muscle pain, and again there was a nosebleed. On physical exam there was confluent erythematous maculopapular rash, guys. Macular, there is also some gingival bleeding also. She is meant for the monitoring and supportive care. What should be the diagnosis over here? Again, guys, it could be what? Yes, everything is going in the favor of the dengue virus. Okay, so guys, I hope it was clear. Okay, I've tried to assimilate as much as information for the dengue fever, which would be the helpful for you guys to understand the topic. So important one, very popular one among India and the tropical areas particularly. Go through it, and I hope you got some value out of it. Thank you so much guys for joining in. If you like the video, please hit the like button. Make sure you share with your friends. Make sure to subscribe the channel, and I will see you with any other topic in the next class. Thank you so much for joining in. Until next time, bye bye. Thank you.